Good morning, this is Matt Sexton with the Florida Department of Transportation's Production Support Office, specifically the CAD office. Today I'm here to talk to you about the procedure for digitally signing and sealing native CAD files for FDOT projects. And in this presentation, we're going to be going over the procedure for digitally signing and sealing or applying a digital signature certificate to native CAD files, such as DGNs or DWGs for FDOT projects. These CAD files may include 3D models or other 3D deliverables that will be utilized in native CAD format as part of the official record. That's because in anticipation of next-gen plans where we want to be able to sign native CAD files as the official record, I'd like to point out, of course, that CAD files that will ultimately be delivered as PDFs, such as signature sheets or key sheets, need not be digitally signed using this procedure in native CAD format, but rather they would be digitally signed and sealed using the current method of signing and sealing PDFs. And that's not what we're discussing today. We're discussing the digitally signing and sealing of native CAD files. The first thing you need to do to be able to sign and seal is you have to have a digital signature certificate installed on your machine. These digital certificates that are used to sign documents, the same ones you use to sign your PDFs, for anything submitted to the Department of Transportation, must be acquired from the Public Key Infrastructure Approved Provider list on the Business Identity and Credentials section of the GSA ID Management.gov Trusted Services list. That sounds like a lot of information right there to just say. So I'm going to take you directly to that page. And of course, there will be a link included in the recording of this webinar. So you will be able to go back and click on the link to get to this page. This is at fdot.gov/IT/approved digital certificate authorities.shtm. This page is going to link you to that GSA ID Management.gov Trust Services list, and it'll list the public key infrastructure providers to get a digital certificate. You probably already know about this because you probably already have your digital certificate set up for PDFs. If you do, then you're already ahead of the game on this topic. Now, during the installation of your digital certificate, be sure to install the certificate for, and I'm putting this in air quotes, current user rather than for local machine. OpenRoads Designer Connect Edition will only populate a list of certificates installed for the current user, not the local machine. And finally, for the purposes of signing and validation of your digital certificate, be sure to add the root certificate to the list of trusted certificates. If the root certificate that a digital certificate belongs to is not trusted, then no certificate belonging to that root will be validated. Think of the root as the folder in which the certificates are stored. So your machine has to trust that folder before it'll trust the certificates in it. And I'm going to show you an example of that. The easiest way to do this is to open up a PDF that you've already signed and sealed. Now, incidentally, this is just a key map. I grabbed the first PDF I could find on my machine to do this. And as you can see, I've signed this down here. Now you can see my signature is valid. If my certificate was not trusted, it's likely that it would say could not be verified. It wouldn't necessarily say that it was invalid, because invalid implies that the signature was broken, but it would say could not be verified because it's not trusted, or something to that effect. You can go to the signature panel in Adobe Acrobat. You can fly open this, and you can see that this obviously has been verified, so you know my signature is trusted, but I'm going to show you how to get to this. You right-click on the signature, select Show Signature Properties. It's going to show you the signature properties. In this case, this is all valid, and you'd likely, if you're doing this, then you would probably see some sort of error and say, oh, I need to trust the certificate. Show Signer's Certificate, this button down here at the center. And then you simply go to the Trust tab. Now you see that my signature itself is trusted. And then you can go up to the root, and you see the root is trusted to sign documents or data and certify documents. This is grayed out because I believe this is grayed out on a policy-wide level at DOT, because I believe they already set the trust for our certificates. But your system, your site, your firm might have different settings for your machines, so you can go ahead and You see this is essentially the folder in which my certificate belongs. So check this. If it's not trusted, if these are red, click on Add to Trusted Certificates. I'll show you what happens when you do that, because I should be able to click on, well, no, there's gonna let me do that. But basically what'll happen, you click on that button and it's gonna bring up a dialog that has these as check boxes, and so you can check the check boxes, then click OK, you click OK again, and then of course you'd click OK to dismiss that, and then you click Close to do that, and then you can revalidate the signature by right-clicking and selecting Validate Signature, and it'll tell you then, okay, the signature is valid. That's how you know that your signature is good to go and ready to do native CAD files. There's a document that's posted along with the recording of this webinar. You can check out that document for a little bit more step-by-step on that process with screen caps, so that will be available to you with the recording of this webinar. All right, so I'm kicking off FDOT Connect for Open Roads Designer Connect Edition. I'm just going to open up DSGN RDO1 file. This may or may not be the file that you're signing and sealing, but for this demonstration, I'm just going to grab this DGN right here and sign this as if this were the file that I was delivering. There's a couple of things that you need to do to your Open Roads Designer setup before you're able to sign and seal with a digital certificate, a native CAD file. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that Save Settings on Exit is disabled. By default, it should be disabled. The reason I say that is because any modification that you make to a DGN file after signing it with a digital certificate will cause the certificate to become broken. It'll cause the signature to become broken. So what we want to do is we want to double check, make sure Save Settings on Exit is disabled, because if it saves the settings on exit, it will modify the file and break the signature. All right, the workspace is loaded. So Save Settings on Exit is located here. It's a user preference. So you go to the Preferences dialog, and you do that just by locating that search field at the top right corner of the application window, typing in Preferences, or Preference in this case, and then clicking on that. It's going to bring your preference dialog up. Save Settings on Exit is located in the Operations section of the Preferences dialog. And you can see Save Settings on Exit is disabled in my workspace already. It's good to go ahead and check, make sure Save Settings on Exit is disabled. I'm good to go. The next thing is you have to enable file protection. File protection is automatically disabled by default in our workspace because there have been some incidents where people accidentally protected a file with a password, and then of course go to work for someone else or retire or something like that, and the file cannot be accessed by anyone. It is locked. So we disable file protection by default in our workspace. This is located under the configuration, and there's 4 different types of file protection, and there's 4 different variables for, it's a configuration variable. So there's 4 different values that you can assign to that configuration variable. You can assign 0 for file protection is disabled. 1, file protection is enabled for both certificates and passwords. 2 is file protection is enabled for password only. And 3, file protection is enabled for certificate only. Now, I've already set this value in my system, but I'm going to show you what you would have to do to set it. You'd go to Configuration by typing Configuration, and you want to look at your Configuration Variables. It's going to bring up the Configuration Variables dialog. This is located under Protection, and the variable in question is MS_protection_enable. As you can see, mine is already set to 3 because I did this yesterday as I was practicing for this webinar. But by default, you'll come in here, it'll either be undefined or it'll be 0. To change that value, you're going to select Edit. You're going to type in your new value. In this case, I'm putting in 3 because that's the value I want to put in there to enable for certificate only. Clicking OK. If I click OK again, it's going to warn me that these changes are going to be saved to the personal use CF file, and that's just fine. I click Yes, and then what I would do is I would then close Open Roads Designer and kick it off again, because that variable is not going to become active until after I close down, and restart OpenRoads Designer. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and sign this. You locate the drawing workflow under the workflow dropdown in the top left of the application window. Select drawing. Right. Now we see the drawing ribbon. Locate the Utilities tab about dead center in the middle of your screen, give or take. Then you're going to locate the Security section of the Utilities ribbon. Click on Signatures. There's a number of tools across the top of this dialog, and also there's a big white space in the dialog. This dialog is where it would display any signatures that had signed this DGN file. You'd see a little line item, and you will see one shortly. There's a tool for adding a new signature, adding a hidden signature model, placing a signature cell, revalidating a signature, zooming to a signature, signature properties, signature hierarchy, and removing a signature. The only thing we're really going to be concerned about today is adding a new file signature, and then of course the revalidation tool, and of course signature properties. So 3 tools. Here's how we add it. Real simple. Click on Add New File Signature. Use the little ellipsis browse button. You're going to browse to your certificate. Mine's an IGC certificate. I'm selecting that. I'm going to put my actual name in here. Now, we have sort of hijacked the location and purpose fields, and the reason we're doing that is because there's some additional verbiage that is required to go along with your digital signature. It's not printed in the DGN file itself, and so we're going to go ahead and include it in these fields so that that verbiage is available. I've saved this verbiage to my to a notepad right here. You can store this someplace or find it on the website or find it in the CAD manual, but here it is. And that verbiage is: the official record is digitally signed and sealed by the professional above on the date indicated under Rule 61G15-23.004 of the Florida Administrative Code. Printed copies of this document are not considered signed and sealed. The signature must be verified on the electronic document. I've split this into 2 separate sections because we're going to go ahead and put that in the 2 different fields, because there is a character limit in these fields, but these fit just right into each of these fields. It's just a little bit fortuitous. Okay, you don't put in an expiry date. That's included as part of your signature. Clicking OK. Click OK again, and there you go. You'll notice there are 3 green check boxes here by my signature: verified, trusted, and current. Verified means that nothing has changed with the document since the time of signing. Trusted means that, of course, my certificate belongs to a trusted root, and current means that my signature has not expired. I would like to point out that an expired signature does not necessarily mean that the file and the signature is not valid. As long as no modifications have been made to the file and the signature is valid, then even if the signature has expired, anything that is signed is still considered valid. Okay. Now, if you were to close this file, what you'd want to do is close the file, and to protect it further, you would want to navigate to your DGN file, right-click on it, select Properties, and check the Read Only button. Okay. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to have to restart OpenRoads Designer. And you might ask me, well, wait, if you change the Read Only attribute, isn't that going to break the signature? And the answer is no, that's a file attribute that doesn't actually constitute having modified the file. So it's great to make your files read only after the fact to protect them from having someone accidentally open the file, do something, and break your signature. So if you were to come back into this file, you'd find this dialog again. You'd open up the signatures dialog, and I'm going to expand this a little bit. It doesn't word wrap, but you see that there is the official record. You can mouse over and see that. Or if you were to select signature properties, you can read that additional verbiage right there in the signature properties. That's all right there for you. The official record is digitally signed and sealed, et cetera, et cetera. If you were to open up a DGN and find that the trusted was red and you didn't have a trusted certificate, you could go through that Adobe Acrobat process and trust the certificate and then come back and select the revalidate signature button. That way it'll go ahead and validate that signature. That's why that revalidate button is important. So if you come in here and there's something wrong initially and you want to revalidate it to check, that button's there for you. That just runs a validation on that signature again. So that's signing and sealing a DGN file. Some of your 3D deliverables may be delivered as XML files, specifically like land XML. To that end, the Florida Department of Transportation's CAD office has included with our FDOT Connect suite an XML signing tool. So you notice I just opened up the FDOT Connect folder on my desktop. This is also located in the FDOT Connect section of your Windows Applications menu. Come down here, you can see there is the XML signing tool right there. The first time you launch this tool, you may be prompted with a dialog just to fill out some information about your professional, your name and a couple other things. It may prompt you, it may not prompt you. It depends. Either way, before you're done signing, it's going to ask you for that information. So I'm just going to double click. You can see that I've already selected my certificate, but if I wanted to choose a different certificate to use, I would click the Choose Certificate button. And if you've jumped through all the hoops of trying to configure your certificate properly to use it inside of OpenRoads Designer, it's going to be very easy for you to locate it inside of the F.XML signing tool. We do have an option for current user or local machine, depending on how it's installed. Is it My Certificate Store? Is it stored in the Address Book, Certificate Authority, etc.? It's probably stored in the My Certificate Store. It's the Windows Certificate Store. It shows what certificates you have in the certificate store. You can see that there's my IGC certificate, but of course everyone has a communication server certificate, which is basically like your Windows level 1 certificate. Alternatively, if you've got a professional engineer who is coming to your desk to sign a DGN, or sorry, an XML file, and they don't typically work at your machine, and they've got their PFX digital certificate file on a jump drive, you can select this radio button right here and then browse to that jump drive to find that PFX file. Now, when I say you can do that, they should do that. The digital certificate of a professional engineer or professional of record should only ever be used by that professional of record. They should be doing the signing of these documents. They should not have someone signing these documents. They should not share their password. As soon as a password is shared, that certificate runs the risk of becoming revoked by the certificate authority. So it's very important that if someone is signing these documents, it's the person whose signature is being used. So if it's professional engineer, it needs to be that person with that certificate signing these files, not their assistant with the professional engineer's certificate. So just bear that in mind. So my little rant, I have to say that. Okay, I've selected my certificate. This is what I was talking about. Professional seal information asks you what kind of professional you are, and it will automatically select the appropriate Florida Administrative Code rule relative to that. And you see this file is signed and sealed, a secure electronic file is described in Florida Department of Business, et cetera, et cetera. That's the verbiage it includes with that. And then we're going to apply a signature. You hit apply signature, and what it does is it navigates you, or allows you to navigate to your XML files. In this case, because I've done this before, it automatically jumped me directly to the XML files that I'd like to sign. But again, it's just a standard file open dialog. You can select all of your XMLs. Little progress meter. It lets you know that it's trying to access a protected item. That's your certificate. And now you see the result is your signed XMLs. And you notice, here's our log. It has created copies of the XMLs and appended underbar signed.xml to those file names. Those are the signed copies of your XMLs. I'm going to close this out for a second because we've just signed those XMLs. That's done. It was that quick. You signed them in bulk. Now I'd like to verify those XMLs. So I've gone to the Verify tab. I'm tapping the Verify Signature button. I'm going to select the signed copies. All right. I'm going to hit Open. Progress meter again. And it verifies that those are valid. Little green checkbox. Really intuitive. Green checkbox, you're good. Everything's great. That's the FDOT.xml signing tool. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now we're going to go to the final fun tool that I have for signing, and that is Civil 3D. Civil 3D actually provides you with a tool to sign native DWG files outside of the Civil 3D environment. So if you're running FDOT2020.C3D or FDOT2019.C3D, the state kit from FDOT with Civil 3D, you can actually sign your DWG files completely outside of Civil 3D. All you do is you access your Windows Applications menu, or whatever they're calling this nowadays, the Start menu, and you're going to navigate to Autodesk, Civil 3D. I have 2020 loaded. And you're going to look for Attach Digital Signatures. This is the tool provided by Autodesk for attaching digital signatures to DWG files. Launch that. Pretty straightforward interface. Add files. This is my Civil 3D 2020 projects. There's my FPID number, my roadway folder. Hey, I've got a DWG right there. I'm going to select that. Next, of course, you can see that I've got my digital certificate. It found that one. That's the only one it found. It didn't select the communication server certificate because I believe it's actually looking for a legit digital ID certificate, not just the Windows certificate. And you want to select Get Timestamp from this computer. And here's where you're going to enter that additional verbiage. Okay, so we've got our additional verbiage. One thing I did want to point out that I had someone point out, Harry, thanks for pointing this out, is that the text I've been using, it does specifically apply to professional engineers doing roadway. If you're a landscape architect, survey and mapper, or a different discipline, you do want to double check to make sure that that Florida Administrative Code number is the correct one for your discipline, and then of course just modify the text to be relative to that. That's the verbiage that you'll want to use. I'm going to go ahead and select Sign Files. Little progress meter there. And you'll notice down here on my taskbar, it's asking me if I want to use this. So I'm going to say Allow. There we are. I'm going to close it out. Now I'm going to open up Civil 3D 2020 using the FDOT2020.C3D workspace. One of the things that the Attach Signatures tool does is it goes ahead and makes the file read-only immediately. Whereas you have to do that manually with the DGN, with the DWG tool, it's going to make those DWGs read-only immediately. I'm going to navigate to my file once this is finished loading. It's not actually a 3D model. It's actually just a standard blank file that I turned into one. It does say it is currently read-only. Would I like to open the file read-only? Yes. The first thing that happens when you open up a digitally signed file when it's read-only is the digital signature contents dialog opens up. You can see the digital signature there, and you can see the comment here with that additional verbiage. All right, and it tells you the signature is valid and the drawing has not been modified since it was signed. I can close that dialog, and if I need to see that again, all I need to do is locate the little stamp down here at the bottom right corner of the screen. It says Validate Digital Signature. And you see that signature is valid. The message that it gave me was that it had been modified in the editor, and I assume that's because the file is open and whatever thing modified it, but the original file that is saved is still valid. So thank you for joining me today on digitally signing and sealing native CAD files and 3D deliverables for FDOT projects. If you have any questions, feel free to email cad.support@dot.state.fl.us. Again, a recorded copy of this webinar will be posted on our website, and of course, this document that I've been referring to throughout will also be posted along with that.